In today's video, challenge yourself by making a short speech. Remember, if you want to get better, it's important to practice. Hello, I'm Eric. These speaking practice videos are a series of short presentations made to help anybody who is thinking of taking the TOEFL English test. But actually, I think they might be helpful for any English learner who just wants to get better. If you're learning English and you need some practice, this might be good for you. The question in today's video is an interesting one. It might have a word you've never heard before. Actually, I have had the opportunity to ask this question to many students from a variety of cultures, and surprisingly, I have heard many different opinions. Well, when you watch the video and you hear the question, you should try to answer it yourself. I would love to hear what your opinion is. So, if you're ready, let's watch. Speaking practice number 3. Today's question: do you agree or disagree that it's important for young people to learn some domestic skills like cooking, sewing, and taking care of children? This is actually a simple question, but the way it's written may seem a little difficult, especially if you don't understand the meaning of the word domestic. Domestic is a word that means something is related to the home and the family, or related to housework and taking care of the family. If this question is on the TOEFL, it's an independent speaking question. You'll have to say clearly whether you agree or disagree, and you'll have 15 seconds to prepare. Finally, the task requires you to speak for 45 seconds, continuously, without stopping. Want to try? Before we look at the example answer, you can think about what you would say to answer this question. Just pause the video for a few seconds and do some practice. Then, when you're ready, let's take a look. Example answer: I agree with the idea that young people should learn some domestic skills, because in my opinion, nobody can predict the future, and everyone may have to live independently at some time. I know that some people may think that young people should just focus on studying, and maybe learning domestic skills is a lower priority. But I still think it's better for everyone to have more knowledge and abilities. For example, my grandfather was busy at his company, but his wife died and left him with 4 children to take care of. He was able to do all the housework alone when it was an emergency. We all should be able to manage in a difficult situation, because we never know what's going to happen. Now that we have seen the question and model answer, what do you think? Like I said before, I have asked this question to many students and I've heard many different opinions. And that's okay. Any opinion you have is okay. Don't lose time thinking about whether you agree or disagree with these questions, because it doesn't matter. What's important is that you fill the full time with lots of good ideas. And your ideas have to be clear and easy to understand, with reasons, details, and examples. Also, did you notice that I included personal experience in this question as well? Thinking of people and moments in your life is actually a very good strategy when you don't have much time to prepare. 15 seconds is not enough time to think of a lot of good ideas. So, thinking of the people and moments in your life is a good strategy. In the next part of this presentation, we have some more advice that might be interesting. Let's take a look. Speaking pattern. To become a good speaker with confidence, like this guy, you should follow a good pattern. Here's the pattern I usually follow. First, clearly express your opinion. Then, give a reason. Next, say an opposing reason. Finish the rest of the time by speaking without stopping. Make an effort to give details and example. Here's how the pattern looks on the model answer. It begins with a clear introduction and a reason to support it. Then there's an opposing opinion. It's not necessary, but I think it's useful. It helps me to look at the problem from a different point of view. Then, for the rest of the time, until it's 45 seconds, I keep speaking, giving details and examples. It might seem a little hard, but don't stop talking. By using this pattern, the first half of your speech is very clear and logical. You follow a clear, step-by-step order. 1, 2, 3. This helps the listener follow your idea. Then, in the second half, try to talk as fluently as possible. Speak freely and naturally if you can. These qualities are necessary in your answer if you want to get a good score. Cut down the question. Let's talk about how to make a good introduction. You should repeat the idea from the question in your answer, so the listener understands what you want to say very clearly. But if the question is too wordy, shorten or simplify it in your answer. Some questions are a little long or wordy, and although you should repeat the main idea in your answer, you don't have to repeat everything. Here's today's question. Do you agree or disagree with the idea that it's important for people to learn some domestic skills like cooking, sewing, and taking care of children? When you read this, you may feel a little confused because there are so many details. The question is kind of long. But don't worry, just try to understand the main idea and cut out the parts that you don't think are necessary. A complete but simple answer is a good answer. It should also be easy to understand. Just say, I agree with the idea that young people should learn some domestic skills. This is simple. It includes the necessary main idea from the question, but it sounds a lot better if you say it like this. Key words. These are the words that came to me when I considered the topic, which is, should young people learn housework, like cooking, cleaning, etc.? The first word is predict, which means to know and say what will happen in the future. In this speech, I said it was impossible to know the future, so you should be able to do as many things as possible, including all kinds of housework. Independent. Of course, this is the TOEFL independent speaking question, but the meaning here, as it relates to people, is a little different. It means acting and thinking without influence from someone else. In other words, taking care of yourself, living on your own. You can live on your own if you know some domestic skills. Priority. Every day, probably, you have many things that need to be done. But the priority is what needs to be done first. It's the most important item on your list of tasks. Finally, domestic. From the question. Something domestic is something related to the home, family, and housework. Maybe it's not a very common word, but it is an important word, so please don't forget it. Next question. All right, don't forget to try the question for the next video. Here it is. Would you prefer to have a higher paying job with longer hours or a lower paying job with shorter hours? If you try to answer this question on your own before you watch the next video, you can compare your answer with mine, and together we'll learn and improve a lot. Okay, class, that's all for today. Thank you for coming. I hope the information has been helpful. Please remember to practice. Practicing is the most important thing you can do. And if you come back and watch the next video, well, that's a good opportunity to practice right there. Please do come back and watch because we have many more videos coming and there's going to be some interesting questions. Also, I know that everybody who watches must have their own ideas about answering these questions. So please leave a comment below. I'm sure it will start an interesting conversation and it will help the other students like you. Also, if you do think this information's helpful, well, subscribe to my channel and hit the like button below. I'll see you next time.